Hello students and welcome again to Legacy IAS Academy. As the Union Budget 2025-26 has been released, we are here to analyze the same in complete detail. So we look at the key highlights, what are the aspects the government is focusing on, what are the provisions for the same, dissect it in detail in the sense that of course the provisions and all are mentioned in the budget document, but why are we taking that step? Why are we investing this much in a certain thing? What is the logic of a particular scheme? Or what benefits can be reaped out of it, or probably what downfalls can have if we do this. All these things and much more we'll see in this lecture. So let's get started. So the very first thing that we'll talk about is the journey of development that the government is planning. So when you talk about the journey, there is a fuel that you need in your vehicle, so the government talks about that. At the same time, you need some guidance. So we have the guiding spirit, as well as you need to know where you want to go. Now please understand, this entire budget document is very important for your prelims, mains both, and of course for the personality test, which is at a later, the last stage. Why these things are also important is because some things are important with respect to your prelims, where direct questions can come, which is factual in nature or even logical. At the same time, what a lot of people forget is there is a lot of fodder in budget to be utilized in your mains examination. So when you're writing your answer, the question need not directly be related to the budget. It can be, it will be, so you write it directly, but the other answers also you can utilize the phrases, the concepts, the things that the government or the budget document talks about. So if you're writing an economy related answer, you can talk about this, can be act as the fuel, whereas this being the guiding spirit and the final destination of India becoming, let's say, Vikasit Bharat they have talked about. For some other answer, you can write about India being the fastest growing economy in the world, etc., etc. So you can modify these things and in a similar fashion use it in your answers, and that is going to give you the edge over others. So let's move on. The journey of development. So we want to achieve this journey with the help of the fuel that the government calls reforms. Now when we talk about reforms specifically in the financial sector, the government is talking about the reforms: ease of doing business, enhancing the credit availability, etc., etc., and also decriminalizing certain things so that people can do business easily. Now guiding spirit is inclusivity. Now this has been the motto of the government since the very beginning, right? So even in 2015 they started with sabka saath sabka vikas. Then it went on to Sabka Vishwas, also means trust. Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas means, Sabka Saath means support of everyone. Sabka Vikas means development of everyone. Sabka means everyone. So the concept of inclusivity has always been there, and this budget also talks about it. So much so that 2024 question was also on inclusive growth. What do you mean by inclusive growth? How it can be achieved? So the government's guiding spirit is inclusivity. That means not to leave any person behind. The last person standing on the queue should also be a part of development. And what is the destination? The destination for all of us is Viksit Bharat. Viksit means developed. So developed India is what we are aiming for. Presently what we are developing, we are in the stage of development. So we are a developing country, but we want to be, of course, Viksit Bharat. That means developed India. Now what would be the engines of this development for us to become Viksit Bharat? We have agriculture, of course, very important. Now this agriculture contributes around 17 to 18% of our GDP, but employs about 50% of the population. Hence it affects half of Bharat, half of India. So that is there. At the same time, MSMEs, this is the secondary sector. In this we are talking about the micro, small and medium enterprises, where intensity of jobs is higher. For every crore rupees of invested, the number of jobs created in MSME is way higher than that created in large industries. As a result of which, good focus on MSME. We'll see what provision for MSME is there. The government has come up with a lot of things for MSMEs. And then you talk about the investment. Investment not just of the private sector, but of the government sector, and not limited to domestic, but also the foreign direct investment as well. And we are looking to be export oriented. We are always looking to be export oriented, but a specific push for exports as well to get those additional foreign exchange reserve. Having said that, let us look at the aspirations of Viksit Bharat. Aspirations means we have said that we want to be Viksit Bharat, a developed India. But what does that developed India mean? So that developed India means we should have an accelerated growth. Accelerated growth means increased growth. Now, not increase, in fact, I'll tell you the difference between increased growth and accelerated growth. Accelerated growth means the economy will grow at a particular rate. Now, even that growth rate should keep on increasing. It should not be the same. For example, if the GDP is 100, from 100 it can become 110, then it can become 105. Now GDP is growing, but here it has grown by 10%, here by less than 5%. So we don't even want that. We want even further increased growth rate. That means if from 100 we went to 110, that means if there was 10% increase here, there needs to be more than 10% increase here. So let's say, for example, 122, more than 10% increase. That means what? That means we just don't want increase in the economy or the GDP, but we want the growth rate also to keep on increasing. That is what is meant by accelerated growth. Second is secure inclusive development. Development should happen for each and every person. It is as simple as that. There was a beautiful advertisement which was shown, a minute of advertisement. What it shows is everything was in a world. They show a different world where everything is made based on the requirement of people who do not have visibility. So what was happening? Every book in that world is written in Braille language. So then what was happening? All the people who were not able to see were easily reading the Braille language, were doing their things. But people who can see did not have this visibility issue. They never learned Braille language. They were not able to read, write, or do their own things. So what is the message with this small advertisement is that it is not that you are different, or it is not that you have the incapability. It is rather the world is not designed for you. So India as a country wants to look towards India being such that it facilitates each and everyone. It should not leave any person behind, not just with respect to economic backwardness, but social backwardness. At the same time, people with differently able people, transgenders, we want to take everyone and move ahead, right? Then you have enhanced spending power of India's rising middle class. Enhanced spending power of India's rising middle class. Now, here the government has given a specific boost by reducing the amount of tax the middle class salaried employee pays with a new tax regime which has come. We will look at that also in detail. Then we have invigorate private sector investment. So we want private sector to play a pivotal role, of course, and more role for the development of India, and uplift household sentiments. Uplift household sentiments. Can you relate it to something? A long time back, 8 years back, there was an economic survey which talked about that India's savings rate are quite high. Okay, it saves up to 33%, but still there is an issue because a lot of the saving is in the household itself, in the rice jar, in the wheat jar, etc., etc. Means what? It is not there in the banking system. It is not there in the market. So it is of no use to the economy, for example. At the same time, the value of it is eroding. So it is not helping the people also who are saving. Now, why is that happening? Are people afraid to keep the money in bank? Okay, probably they keep it in the bank. Even in the bank, it's there in the market, but again, it's not helping the household. Why? Because the household is not earning much. If it's in savings account, it's just 2.5% interest rate. You are also not earning much, so your money is not growing. Here, the government talks about uplifting the household of the household sentiments. Means the sentiment of the household savings should be such of trust and belief, so that they also start putting their money in the banks and investment in government securities, so on and so forth, so that the economy can get a boost. So these are the themes of Viksit Bharat, or the aspiration of Viksit Bharat. Now, so we have understood this. Now let us see what development we are talking about and what are the things that the government is trying to focus on. So development measures, the government is focusing on development measures with respect to Garib. Garib means the poor. Then Yuva or youth. Yuva means youth. Garib, that is poor. Youth, Annadata means the farmer. Annadata means the person who is given anna. Anna means food grain. Annadata, farmer. And nari means women. So a special focus on poor, youth, farmer and women. Now this has been the focus in the previous budget also. Previously, last fiscal, there was interim budget which had come due to the elections, the general elections. Now the same focus is continuing and more things are coming up and will be implemented with respect to focus on these things. So if we talk about the very first, spurring agriculture growth and building rural prosperity, the government wants to come up with Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. Dhan, Pradhan Mantri PM Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. Now, since the schemes are named in Hindi, it becomes sometimes difficult to understand what they mean, because someone who knows Hindi would directly know what this means, right? So sort of there is an issue, but no issues whatsoever. We'll understand what it actually means. Dhan means money. Dhanya means the food grains. So Pradhan Mantri, this is money, this is food grain. Krishi means agriculture. Yojana means scheme. So Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. So they are talking about farmers' income basically. Dhan means money. Money to whom? To the food grain farmer, to the farmer. The Yojana, the scheme is for that. Now, what is this scheme all about? This scheme is a very focused scheme. It is going to be developing agri districts. Okay, so it is coming up with agri district development program, wherein it will develop certain agricultural districts. What kind of districts are we talking about? We are talking about the districts where the yield is less, where the income of the farmer is poor. So the focus of this scheme is on the poor agricultural districts where yield or income is less. So it will cover around 100 districts and is supposed to help around 1.7 crore farmers. Then you have mission for cotton productivity. It's a 5-year mission which will facilitate improvements in the productivity of cotton industry. Then very important scheme here is enhanced credit through KCC, Kisan Credit Card. So Kisan Credit Card scheme was there, which used to provide collateral free loan of around 1.8, 2.3 different levels of loans. Now that facility or that limit has been improved, and now it has been enhanced to loans up to 5 lakh without collateral. So under KCC, around 7.7 farmers, fishermen and dairy farmers will be able to get loans of up to 5 lakhs without any collateral. Collateral free loans will be there. At the same time, these loans will be at a low interest rate. It will also consist of interest subvention scheme. Interest subvention scheme means what? See, the percentage of this is not decided, but I will still explain you in brief what this means. It means that if the farmers will be given loan at X% and the farmer pays the loan completely with the interest rate of X and clears all the loan, the government will provide some 0.2 to 0.3x money back to the farmer as an incentive for paying the loan completely. So the effective interest rate would be even less than X%. So this is a beautiful scheme. The same thing was there previously also. It is there now also. It's just that the limit has been exceeded, which is a good thing. Why? Because now more farmers can get more loans and they can get, they can technologically also advance themselves because the amount is higher over here. However, one thing that needs to be taken care of, we need to ensure that the spread of this scheme is wide, means that it should not be that only the big landlords, farmers are getting it. It should reach the poorest of the poor, small and marginal farmers as well. That is a challenge. So implementation will still remain the challenge. What guidelines, what rules, what kind of execution does the government come up with? Do they come up with any criteria that you have to give so many farmers loan which have less than a particular amount of land? That remains to be seen. Then you have national mission on high yielding seed. So it is talking about targeted development and propagation of seeds with high yields. means it is talking about development of HYV kind of variety of seeds. HYV seeds which were introduced in India in 1969, which led to green revolution, were researched and developed outside India, right, not in India. So now we are talking about production of such seeds within India for different crops itself, which is a very good thing. This is towards R&D, research and development and innovation, which is a very good thing to do. Then a very interesting and a very positive thing is of Makhana board in Bihar. Now many people are saying that a lot of thing is being given to the state of Bihar because it's a coalition government and they have to pay heed to Bihar. All that is fine, but some of the things that have been provided are like a master stroke, you may not say it, but at least that makes sense. Matlab, that should happen, should have rather happened previously itself, but it didn't. So rather it's a delayed thing which is happening. Let us discuss that in relation to Makhana board in Bihar. So the central government in the union budget has talked about setting up the Makhana board. Now Makhana is quite famous in Bihar. In fact, it has got the GI tag. Bihar has the GI tag for a specific kind of makhana as well. So what is this Makhana board all about? So Makhana board, so what happens presently is Bihar produces a lot of makhana, GI tag makhana. All of it gets exported to different states of India. Interstate transport happens, and then in different state what happens is the different states sort of processes it, adds a bit of chili, spices, this, that, fries it up, packs it up, brands it up and sells it to us at way exorbitant costlier prices. So if the price of the, just the raw makhana is X, you will get it at 3x, 4x. So 2-3x value is getting added just on the basis of few spices added, it fried and you packed it up and you increase the price. So majority of the value addition happens outside the state and other states are earning quite a lot. Now for a country as a whole, it's fine because it's entirely within the country itself, but then individual states also need to develop and do well with respect to their own state gross domestic product. So here what the government is trying to do is bring in the makhana board and subsequently have food processing unit, processing of the makhana, so that the value addition is done within the states and majority of the benefits are reaped by the state who is producing it, that is the state of Bihar. So this is the totality behind this thing. It is a logical and good step. Next we talk about Atmanirbharta in pulses. Why in pulses? See, India has been producing quite well with respect to food grains. However, they are with respect to rice, wheat and other things. When it comes to pulses, we are still falling short in pulses. So what we have to do then? We have to import it. When we import it, then what happened? We have to pay the import money, of course, in foreign exchange. So our foreign exchange also reduces, plus the cost will be high. Because the cost will be high, it's not just that the government has to give more money, it is costly for us also. At the same time, it is a good source of protein. So the source of protein for us becomes costly. Now, one more thing to remember here is, for vegetarians, it is a very good source. It is a good source for everyone. But for vegetarian, maybe, when you are not eating non-veg, meat, etc., what do you have left with it? A lot of things, soya bean, etc. But at the same time, pulses also, which provides you good amount of protein. So you are lacking that because it is less in quantity, because of which the prices are high. So it becomes costly. You would have it around 200 rupees per kg, which is costly. So if we can increase the production of pulses, if we can become Atmanirbhar in pulses. Atmanirbhar means independent, self-dependent, depending upon our own self. That means we are independent. We are not dependent on anyone else but our own self for pulses supply. So if we can do that, the prices will come down, more people will be having economic accessibility also for pulses. So that is the concept of the government. So it is going to launch a 6-year mission with special focus on 3 things: Tur, Urad and Masoor. So entire pulses, but special focus will be on this. Then now this is again a very synergistic step by the government, which will have a positive impact. The government is trying to make India Post act as a catalyst for rural economy. So how is it planning to do that? Now if you look at India Post has huge amount of post offices throughout India. You can write a letter to any corner, any part of India, and India Post will ensure that it reaches the person. No, in movies it was many times in many movies it shows that the letter was posted 20 years back, it has not reached. That is not how it is. India Post is one of the very efficient, logistics organization. So it will reach the desired destination no matter what. That is how good they are. And they also have so many post offices available. So the government wants to reap benefit of the availability of India Post throughout India, in the remotest of the villages, in every nook and corner of India. How are they planning to do that? By not just keeping the post services only limited only to, not letting the services limited only to the posts, but also coming up by making it a hub correlation for various things. Institutional account services, talking about enforcing or implementing direct benefit transfer, cash removal, as well as EMI pickup. What is EMI pickup? A very interesting thing. See, what happens in remotest of villages, you do get the letters and everything, but you don't have banking facility, banking branches and banking services, right? So then what happens? Then what happens is, to find out the banks, you have to walk. Now for a daily wage laborer, if you go 10 kilometers, it's the entire day gone, your daily wage is gone. At the same time, it is not feasible, you cannot again and again go. But if you have India Post taking care of it for you, then how? It will be then great. So what will happen? You can take a loan for which you may need to pay an EMI, for example. Now the bank is far, you don't have smartphone, other facilities are there, maybe you don't have that facility, you don't understand that. So what will happen is, the post person will come to your house, pick up the EMI and get it deposited for you through the post offices. So that is going to benefit the economy a lot. So these are the things which the government is trying to plan, so that India Post potential can be utilized fully. Now coming on to a very important thing about MSMEs. The budget focuses a lot on MSME. There are certain changes with respect to credit in the MSME. At the same time, there are certain reforms in the MSME. In fact, the definition of the MSMEs have been changed, enhanced and improved to further the growth. So let us see what this is. First things first, credit cards have been introduced for MSME, micro enterprises specifically. Now they are customized credit card with a credit limit, of course. So limit is what? 5 lakh, and around 10 lakh such cards will be issued. So it will be issued to whom? To the micro enterprises that are registered on the Udyam portal. Udyam means business. So on the business portal, on the Udyam portal, whichever micro enterprises are registered, they will get customized credit card of worth rupees 5 lakh. For around 10 lakh such cards would be issued. Now, apart from that, the government is coming up with the scheme for first time entrepreneurs. Very important phrase is first time entrepreneurs. So this scheme is specifically for those who are becoming entrepreneurs for the first time. So 5 lakh such first time entrepreneurs will be benefited. They will include women, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes as well. A new scheme would also be launched which will provide certain loans. So this is a very good thing, specifically talking about the first time entrepreneurs. Here the government wants to create job providers rather than job seekers. Now, the government also proposes to launch the manufacturing mission. Now, in manufacturing mission, the first thing it talks about is ease of doing business, ease of and cost of doing business. So when you talk about ease of doing business, India was doing quite well, but at the same time, it did quite well with respect to starting a business. There is still a lot to be done with respect to closing a business. It's not that easy for anyone to close a business in India. There are a lot of rules and regulations. Even starting is difficult, but starting is comparatively easier than closing the business. So India wants to better this. Plus, ease is not just in the rules, regulation, procedures, the forms to be filled, the requirements, the legalities, but also the cost of doing business needs to be improved. At the same time, future ready workforce for in-demand jobs. This is very important, especially when India was at times called as the economy with the jobless growth. Why jobless growth? Because there was growth in India, but the growth was jobless. We were not creating enough job, even though we were growing. Now, why was that, or why can that happen? One reason can be structural unemployment. What is structural unemployment? When there is a mismatch between the skill set that the economy requires and the skill set that is present in the economy. For example, economy requires more of doctors, but economy has more of engineers. So it is not that people are not educated or skilled. There are engineers, they are educated, they're skilled. But do the economy need that? No, it does not. So there is a mismatch. Now, of course, there is another reason that people are not skilled itself. So for that, Skill India mission is already there, but also there can be a mismatch of skills. So that is why we want to make India future, the workforce of India future ready for the future jobs. You know, see, now a child studying in standard first, so 5-year-old child may start to work after 15-16 years. Now, you are making the child study based on what do you see now, the kind of jobs you see now, but 15 years later the kind of jobs available might completely shift or be completely different. So you need to look into the future and do that. And why about 15 years? Just after 12th, if you want to do a graduation or develop a skill, again you might be thinking this skill has, but 5 years later some other skill is happening. Things are changing so rapidly, so we need to give a thought and make ourselves future ready, plus have a vibrant and dynamic MSME sector, always evolving. Dynamic means what? Always evolving with respect to the requirement. One should change, or else one becomes completely dormant. I'll give you an example. Have you heard about Kodak? Now, maybe the present generation, very young people or the teenagers or the ones in early 20s might not have heard much, but people in 30s, mid 30s or elderly might have heard about Kodak even more. Now, this company was about the camera and the films of the camera which was there. Okay? So it was doing very well. It was synchronous with respect to naming pictures. But then what happened? Digitization happened. People started having digital cameras, then phones which acted as cameras. So this usual traditional film based phones which were there, they were out of demand, and this company had a great downfall. Now they are trying to resurrect itself by modifying themselves and bringing themselves into the digitization field. But what happened? Suddenly change happened. They could not modify themselves. They were not dynamic, they were static. We do not want our MSME sector to be like that. We want it vibrant and dynamic so that it adapts itself to the changing environment. Availability of technology, of course, and the quality of product. Now we are planning to do all this with the help of clean tech manufacturing. In a manner of clean tech manufacturing means using clean technology. So that is our manufacturing mission. It will, there will be certain measures of labor intensive sectors. MSME itself is labor intensive. Among in the MSME, again there are sectors which are more labor intensive in MSME than other sectors. So the very first is focus product scheme for footwear and leather. Very labor intensive. You require huge amount of labor in the leather industry to do a lot of work with manually or with the help of machines. Then measures for toy sector. India wants, the government wants India to be a toy hub and promote the Made in India toy brand. A very interesting and a very good thought of thing, because traditional toys, different kind of toys are very famous, but they are not branded very well. So we want to focus in that, add value into that, use of technology to mass produce them, etc., etc., in order to become a toy hub of the world. Plus support for food processing. Very important. Food processing is very important, because when food processing is there, what is happening? You are adding value onto it. I'll simply give you an example of food processing unit. Let's say you produce wheat, 1 kg wheat. I'll tell you how important it is to have food processing unit. If you produce 1 kg wheat, let's say the cost of it is 50 rupees, and you do not process it, it is consumed by the people as it is. So What is the, let's say the economy produced just this. So what is the GDP of the economy? If it produced just 1 kg wheat within the boundary of the country, it is just 50 rupees. But if this wheat goes to the flour industry to be converted into flour, 1 kg of flour, so this costs, let's say, 60 rupees. Now what is the GDP now? 60 rupees. But you do not stop here. You then send it to the bakery, which converts it into, of course, bread. 3 packs of bread, let's say it costs rupees 150. So what is the GDP now of the economy? The total value of the final goods and services produced within the boundary of the country. So total value of final goods and services 150. The GDP has more than tripled. You don't end here. Send it to restaurant. Restaurant makes 20 sandwiches out of it. Each sandwich causing rupees 100. So costing rupees 100. So total value is rupees 2000. So what is the GDP now? Rupees 2000. From 50 to 2000. How did it happen? Because you kept on processing it. You kept on adding value to it. So job is created here, here as well as here. So this is what the government is wanting to look at. That doesn't mean that the economy should not have any wheat whatsoever. No, wheat is also required. We will probably, make dalia or something else out of it. Flour is also required. We'll, dough the atta and eat roti. Even bread is also required. Bread, butter, etc. Even sandwiches are required. So it should not happen that the economy requires 20 sandwiches. You made only 5 because you did not have the processing units. So that is why processing units have to be there. I hope this is absolutely clear. Now comes a very important part. MSMEs have faced the problem of unavailability of credit. Either the credit is not available, or if it is available, it is very costly. Now the government has enhanced the credit guarantee cover. So it has enhanced the credit guarantee cover. What is the enhancement in rupees crore for MSMEs? Earlier or presently it was 5 crores. Now it has been revised to 10 crores. So 10 crores of cover will be there. For startups, it was 10. Now it will be made to 20 crores. 20 crores of cover will be there for the startups. So this, simply they have doubled it. So this is a good step. This is going to infuse a lot of liquidity in the MSME sector. Now, the classification of MSME itself has been revised. So if you look at it, based on investment, MSMEs can be classified. The criteria is present based on investment and turnover. So earlier or currently, what is it? Micro enterprise is one which is having investment of 1 crore or turnover of 5 crore. So this has been increased to 2.5 and turnover to 10. Small enterprise is the one with 10 crore investment and 50 crore turnover, which has now been changed to 25 crore investment and 100 crore turnover. Medium enterprises are the one with 50 crore investment and 250 crore turnover, which has now been changed to 125 crore investment and 500 crore turnover. Now, effectively what they have done is, they have multiplied current investment with 2.5 to give you the revised investment, and they have multiplied the current turnover by 2 to give you the revised turnover. Now, how does this help? This helps because earlier the company with 1 crore of investment was considered as micro. Right? If you are above 1 crore, you are not considered as micro. So the benefits you will not get. Now that limit has been exceeded. So even up to 2.5, you are considered as micro and you will get all the benefits. That means more and more people and the industry enterprises will now get benefit. Hence, it is a very good step. Now, next, the budget focuses on investing in people, economy and innovation. Okay? So people, economy and innovation, we are talking about. First thing talks about the support to states for infrastructure. So the union government talks about giving support to the states for infrastructure, giving them 50-year worth of loans. So outlay of 1.5 lakh crore for 50-year interest-free loan to states. they do not have to pay any interest on that loan. So this is again a very good thing, a boost for the states to develop their infrastructure more and more. Then the Jal Jeevan scheme is now trying to achieve 100% coverage. Har Ghar Jal means water in every house is what this mission tries to achieve, and this has been extended till 2028 with 100% coverage, which is being talked about, and there has been a significant increase in the money that is proposed to be invested in it. Plus power sector reforms. Now power sector was facing an issue since long time, that is the issue of the discoms, the distribution companies. So issues of distribution or the transportation of the electricity, of the power, so that the government is now going to take care by coming up with incentivized distribution reforms. The government is going to reform the more and more efficient distribution is there by the company, right? Additional borrowing of 0.5% to the states will be given. That means the states can borrow an additional 0.5% over and above the present limit of borrowing of the states if they efficiently achieve the reforms in the power sector. So incentivization is there. Then you have asset monetization plan for 2025-2030, wherein the government wants to plow back around 10 lakh crore of new projects. Now what is asset monetization? See, when the government does some capital investment, there is a possibility of creation of capital asset, infrastructure development, so on and so forth. They are capital assets. Now the assets should reap revenue. So the government wants more and more revenue needs to be generated. So when you are utilizing an asset to generate revenue, that means you are monetizing the asset. Take for simple example, if you are living in one house, you have bought another house. Now that house is vacant. Okay. So is that asset generating revenue? No. So it is not monetized. But let's say you give it on rent. Now is that asset generating revenue? Yes. That means what? That asset is now monetized. So government wants to monetize the assets that it has and reap around 10 lakh crore worth of projects from that in the year 25-30. Then you have Urban Challenge Fund, 1 lakh crore for implementing cities as growth hub challenge, creative redevelopment of cities and water sanitation. What is this? The Urban Challenge Fund. This is there for challenging the cities, the boards, the different people to better your city with respect to specific things, with respect to growth. A city becoming a growth hub. You want to convert your city into a growth hub, do it. If you're doing well, there is a fund which you can further utilize to improve it. Or with respect to water and sanitation or creative redevelopment of cities, so on and so forth. Creative redevelopment can talk about how you would redevelop to reduce the traffic, reduce the pollution, so on and so forth. So for that, there is a corpus of 1 lakh crore for implementing the urban challenges. Okay. Then let's move on to the Maritime Development Fund, corpus of 25%, which will provide long-term financing. 25,000 crore for long-term financing, means more than 1 year, of course. Then you also have nuclear energy mission for Viksit Bharat. Now nuclear energy is a clean source of energy, though it seems like it's a risky source of energy because of nuclear involvement of nuclear reactors, nuclear isotopes, right? Because of that, it is risky. But you can see the government is bringing up the scheme. That means the government is ready to go ahead with increase in the nuclear capacity, right? So nuclear energy mission for Viksit Bharat. It is going to amend the Atomic Energy and the Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act. So what improvement they give? Generally, we can look up with respect to the improvement on better risk assessment, more safety, more security, better damages to be covered, etc., etc. Then you have Udan scheme, Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik. So under Udan scheme, 120 new destinations will be connected, and it's going to carry 4 crore passengers in the next 10 years. Clear? Now Swami Fund 2. So this is a fund for affordable mid-income housing. So 15,000 crore is being given for affordable mid-income housing, right? Then you have future needs for Bihar. So specific mention of Bihar is again coming over here. So it can get criticized that what about other states are not so specifically talked about, whereas Bihar has been talked about. But our job is to look at it, analyze it, look at the pros and cons, and be prepared for the examination. Anyway, so future needs of Bihar, greenfield airports. What is greenfield? There is a concept of greenfield and brownfield. So greenfield means completely new project starting from scratch, zero, because the field is completely green, grass. Brownfield means the projects which are already existing, some work would have been done, green would have been converted into brown, some work, some structure, something is already there. If you give fund or improve on that, that is a brownfield project. So here we are talking about greenfield airports completely from scratch, financial support for the Western Kosi Canal projects, etc. Okay. Then reforms as fuel. Reform, as we saw in the very beginning, it is going to act as a fuel. Act as a fuel for what? Act as a fuel for our journey towards India as Vikasit Bharat. So what is the first reform? The most important, the most awaited by the middle class specifically is the tax reform, changes in the direct taxes and proposal to introduce the new income tax bill. Okay, so we'll see what the tax slabs are now. Regulatory reforms, light touch regulatory framework, some small changes here and there to make it easier. At the same time, whatever criminalization provisions are present, to decriminalize that. So for this more and more regulatory reforms, high level committee shall be created for that. At the same time, the government has promised to come up with investment friendliness index of states, which will tell us which state is more investment friendly, which will attract more people to invest in that state, which will lead to state federal cooperativeness or rather federal competitiveness. For example, every state will be healthy, in a healthy manner, competing with each other to attract more and more investment. At the same time, it's going to give a clear picture to the people, to the investors, as to which state is more investment friendly. And then Jan Vishwas Bill, as I said, decriminalization of more than 100 provisions will be there of various laws that will come under the Jan Vishwas. Jan means people, Vishwas means trust. So People's Trust Bill 2.0, Jan Vishwas Bill 2.0. Now, here is the changes in the taxation system. So personal income tax reform has come. Special focus is on the middle class, means low and slightly average income group. So here is the big news in the budget. The news or the budget provision which has probably got more views than any other is the new tax slabs. So from 0 to 4 lakh, there is no tax whatsoever, no percentage of tax. From 4 to 8 lakhs, just 5%. From 8 to 12 lakhs, 10%. And from 12 to 16, only 15% tax is there. Previously, beyond, 5 years back, beyond 10, it was 30%. Now it was, beyond 15, it was 30%. Now we are at 16 lakhs, but still only 15%. Then 16 to 20 lakhs, 20% only. 20 to 24 lakh, 25%. And only when your income is exceeding 24 lakhs is then you will have to give 30% or more. So there is a lot of relief for the middle class over here. I hope that is absolutely clear. Now, one more thing to be remembered is up to 12 lakhs effectively you may have no tax at all. How? Because of course 4 to 8 lakhs 5% is there, 8 to 12 10% is there, but you will have certain tax deduction provisions. If you apply for all this, you will get the tax rebate, and up to 12 lakhs no tax will be required to be paid if you take into consideration those provisions. I hope that's absolutely clear. So that was for the direct taxes. Now let's talk about the indirect taxes. So indirect taxes, the government is talking about rationalization of custom tariff structure of industrial good. Rationalization means sort of reducing the tariffs which are there. So how the government is doing that? Removal of 7 tariffs. The government is talking about removal of 7 tariffs, plus apply not more than 1 cess or 1 surcharge. On the same good, there might be at times multiple surcharges. Education says, environment says, no such thing anymore. It will be just 1 cess or surcharge. Plus, the changes would be such that it does not apply equivalent, it does not affect the earning of the government, right? But at the same time, multiple surcharges and cess should not be there, right? Now, a very interesting thing the government comes up with every single year is the fact that where the rupee, if 100% is the money that is coming to the government, let's say 1 rupee is coming to the government, where is it coming from? And if 1 rupee is going from the government, we will also see where is it going to. Okay? So let's see where the money is coming from. Income tax, 22%, the highest. Income tax 22% is the highest. After that you have, in fact, highest is borrowing, but we'll keep it later because it is to address completely different thing. Apart from that, the revenue that is the government is earning, for example, from us, from the citizens, that where it is coming from. So income tax. Then the second here you have is the corporate tax, or second is the GST, sorry, second is the GST. It is slightly more than corporate tax, and then you have corporate tax. So GST has increased. Earlier corporate tax was very close to income tax and neck to neck, and it used to be second, but now GST is second, this is third, right? Then after this you have non-tax receipts, the registration fees, the different services that the government provide fees for that. Then you have customs duty and non-debt capital receipts. Okay. Of course, before customs you have the union excise duties. So union excise duties, customs, non-debt capital receipts. Now let us understand this breakdown. So 22% is the income tax, 18% is the GST. Now GST is an indirect tax, so it is actually a regressive tax in nature. So it is better if a country's direct taxation is more than the indirect taxation. So why? Because direct tax, what happens, the people who are earning more will pay more taxes, people who are earning less will pay less taxes. In indirect tax, what happens, no matter you are earning, we pay the same taxes. If you earn 24 lakhs per annum, you pay the same tax on a Pepsodent toothpaste. If I earn just 3 lakhs per annum, I pay the same taxes on the Pepsodent toothpaste, right? So what is it? It is regressive in nature. I hope that is absolutely clear. Now 24%, which is actually the highest, is coming from borrowing and other liabilities, meaning the government is taking loan, it is creating a liability on the government. This should be lower than this. Okay. Now where does the rupee go? So the highest percentage of rupee goes to state share of taxes and duties, the state share as per the Finance Commission. Next is interest payment. So interest payment is also quite high. It's painfully high. Then you have central sector scheme, excluding the outlay on defense and subsidy. So it is the central sector scheme where it is going. Then after central sector scheme, you have centrally sponsored scheme, Finance Commission and other transfers and other expenditure. So through Finance Commission also the money goes to states, and various other states share is also there. Now what is the difference between central sector scheme and centrally sponsored scheme? Central sector scheme, what happens in central sector scheme, 100% of the funding is from the central government. Under centrally sponsored scheme, some percentage of it is funded by the central government, rest is by the state government. After this you have 8% on defense, then major subsidies, National Food Security Act, Manrega, etc. And then finally pension. Now pension, the government has stopped pension since long back, still it's 4%. So it is a high number, but still the stopping of pension was criticized a lot. Even now it is criticized. The government can relook on it to start the pension again. Let's see. So now let's come on to the trends in the deficits. In this we'll also see different kinds of deficits. So 2021 to 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, and this is going to be budgeted estimate for 5, 6. Okay. So fiscal deficit in the year 2021, 23, 22 was 6.9%. From there we have gone down to 4.4%. So we are doing good in that. Now fiscal deficit is what? The revenue, the expenditure minus revenue. What is the revenue? Revenue receipts or non-debt, revenue receipts plus non-debt creating capital receipts. That's the definition of fiscal deficit. Revenue deficit is what? Revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt. So from 4.4% it has come down to 1.5%. This is good because revenue deficit should be lower, because revenue expenditure does not create any asset or generate any further revenue. It is recurring in nature and it gets consumed. It does not hold any value for the upcoming future. It does not create any revenue for the future. Effective revenue deficit is to 3.3. From 3.3 it has come down to 0.3%. What is effective revenue deficit? From the revenue deficit, when you exclude the part which was given to state, which the state uses for capital development, you get the revenue deficit, which is quite low. That means a lot of expenditure over here is going for capital asset creation by the states. Then you have primary deficit. From 3.3 we have gone down to 0.8. What is primary deficit? Primary deficit is fiscal deficit. Primary deficit equals fiscal deficit minus interest liabilities. So interest liability of a government is quite high. So if you remove the interest liability from fiscal deficit, you get the primary deficit. So primary deficit is just 0.8. Look at the fiscal deficit, it's still very high. Primary deficit is very low. That means interest liability of the government is very, very high. I hope that's clear. Now, trend in net receipt at the center. So net centers tax revenue, non-tax revenue, non-debt capital receipt. All three are given. So if you can see, there has been an increase in net tax revenue of the central government. When you talk about non-tax revenue, it has slightly dropped but then slightly increased and stabilized over here. Non-debt capital receipt. What is non-debt capital receipt? The capital receipt that does not create any debt. That has fluctuated, it has gone up, down, and now slightly increasing as well. Okay. Now total transfers to the states. The total transfer to the states have also gone up. However, it is very interestingly or intelligently shown. It is shown cumulatively. Cumulatively, of course, it has gone up. But if you make a graph percentage wise year on year, it may be fluctuate. It will be fluctuating in nature. But cumulatively, yes, of course, it has gone up. I hope this is absolutely clear. So this is what the key highlights of the budget is, and what the what the statistics of India is with respect to the economies. At the same time, what are the focus area of the government? So based on this, you need to prepare for your examination based on this. Of course, you don't have to leave anything else, other things, but the focus should be here. The schemes that are being mentioned, you need to focus on that. The sectors that are being mentioned, MSME has been focused a lot, so there can be direct questions on MSME, especially in your mains and prelims examination. And this is all about the Union Budget 2025-26 from Legacy IAS Academy. Stay tuned for the future when we come up with each and every schemes. As and when it comes, the rules, the guidelines will be stated, the criteria, and so many more things are coming your way. So subscribe to Legacy IAS YouTube Academy channel. Thank you so much.